Alright, hello everyone. Here we are with break 89, 2021 Traders Mega Break.
Hello everyone. Here we are with
sorry.
break 89, 2021 Traders Mega Break.
I thought I already fixed that. Alright, so Dad's over there. He's going to start opening the starter packs. Make it a bit easier, a bit quicker for us. While he gets started on that, we'll run through the team list. We have Broncos, Robert Kelly; Raiders, Benjamin Manning; Bulldogs, Robert Kelly; Sharks, Brett Timmins; Titans, Robert Kelly; Sea Eagles, Jeremy Wells; Storm, DK; Knights, Brendan Martin; Cowboys, Christopher Barrett; Eels, Craig Hyde; Panthers, Christopher Barrett; Rabbitohs, Robert Kelly; Dragons, Rodney White; Roosters, Brendan Martin; Warriors, Christopher Barrett; and Tigers, Ashley Kenny. Big thank you to everyone that got in early and has been patient, and thank you to everyone that's jumped in and grabbed teams that they weren't really interested in to help us move it along. We have a case, sealed case, so when we get up to that, we'll see what case card we have hiding.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I want me to take them out, do you?
It doesn't matter either way if you want to take them out.
It's easy, I'll just leave them somewhere.
Got two mini starter cases for the starter packs, two priority boxes. Everyone will receive the show card for the team they have or teams. We have a $50 voucher to be raised between all 16 teams, and another one for any teams, or to be raised between any teams that don't get a numbered kit. So on that note, let's get started, guys. Ponga, Yellow Toon. Hi Dan, hi Benjamin. We have Bulldogs, Rising Stars, Brendan Wakeham. Titans Checklist, Parallel. Morning, Rodney. Season to Remember, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. William Kennedy, Parallel for Sharks. Rising Stars, Hayes Perham for the Warriors. Braden Hemlin Yulee for the Sharks, Parallel. Luke Brooks for the Tigers, Yellow Star Toons. Season to Remember, Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. Kurt Mann, Parallel for the Knights. Always welcome to come have a look, Dan. Rising Stars for the Raiders, Tom Starling. Latrell Mitchell, Parallel for the Rabbits. We have White Streeter for the Cowboys, Hamiso Tabu Fido. Mr. Fido for sure. Josh Morris for the Roosters, Parallel. Black Star Toon for the Eels, Mitchell Moses. Number 44. Thomas McHale, parallel for the Tigers. Black Street Art for the Raiders, Jared Croker. Tavita Tatala for the Rabbits. Wildcard, Isaiah Yo for the Panthers. Brad Parker, parallel for Manly. Thank you, Muchley. Blue Star Toon, Mitchell Moses. Season to Remember, Tony Staggs for the Broncos. Jake Trbojevic, parallel for Manly. Season to Remember, Jack Whiten for the Raiders. Josh Morris, parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Semi Valemi for the Raiders. Cameron McInnes, parallel for the Dragons. Mitchell Moses, Yellow Star Toon for the Eels. So we'll be listing some double box breaks this week. They will be due to run next Saturday, any that are sold out. Moaki Photo Ika for the Titans. Black Street Art. Broncos checklist. These will include some older select boxes with trader boxes. There might even be a varied year traders break. We'll just see what happens, and all that are sold out will run next week, next Saturday. Ryan Madison, parallel for the Eels. Hey Dwayne, how's it going, mate? Season to Remember, Josh Mansour for Panthers. Dale Finucane for Storm. Blue Star Toons, Elliot Whitehead for the Raiders. Season to Remember, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Paul Vaughan, parallel for Dragons. Rising Stars, Tanner Boyd for the Titans. Micah Sivo, parallel for Eels. Season to Remember, Mitchell Orbison for the Roosters. Felice Kafusi for the Storm. Luke Brooks, Yellow Star Toons for the Tigers. Season to Remember, Josh Jackson for the Bulldogs. Liam Martin, parallel for Panthers. Tom Trbojevic, parallel for Manly. Brendan Wakeham, Rising Stars for Bulldogs. Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Blue Star Toon, Kenneth Bromwich for the Storm. Rising Stars, Tom Starling for Raiders. Jordan Piera, parallel for Dragons. Titans parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Tessie New for the Broncos. William Kennedy, parallel for Sharks. Blue Star Toon, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Joel Thompson, retirements for Manly. Braden Hemlin-Ewley, parallel for Sharks. Team Wildcard for the Raiders. Reece Robson, parallel for Cowboys. We have Manly Star Toons, Martin Tapau. Parramatta checklist. Elliot Whitehead, Raiders Yellow Star Toon. White Street Art, Josh Jackson. Jared Croker, parallel for Raiders. Sammy Valemi, Rising Stars for Raiders. Campbell Graham, parallel for Rabbits. Season to remember, Josh Mansour for Panthers. Adam Dewey, parallel for Tigers. Yellow Star Toons, Ashley Taylor for the Titans. Tanner Boyd, parallel for Titans. Rising Stars, Tavita Funa for Manly. Knights, parallel checklist. Club Hero, Tyson Frizzell for the Dragons. Jaden Sewer, parallel for Rabbits. Blue Star Toon, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Wild card, Scott Drinkwater for Cowboys. Tom Trebojevic, parallel for Manly. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Star Toons for Warriors. Daniel Saifiti, parallel for Knights. Season to remember, Gavin Cooper for the Cowboys. Mitchell Pearce, parallel for Knights. Blue Star Toons, Martin Tapau for Manly. White Street Art, Dylan Brown for Eels. Dylan Napa, parallel for Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Bo Formore for Titans. Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. First signature, well, close. Redemption. White Authentics for Panthers. And that is number 64. Jack Whiten, parallel for Raiders. It's always good when we score them out of starter packs. You know you're guaranteed one in the case, but it's a bonus. Scott Drinkwater, Cowboys, Yellow Star Toons. Nico Hines, Rising Stars for Storm. Roosters checklist. Joseph Leilua, parallel for Tigers. G'day Adam. Rising Stars, Asu Kapoa for the Tigers. Thomas Flegler, parallel for Broncos. Yellow Star Toon, Group B. So for anyone unsure, we'll randomise that between the teams that were featured on the card at the end of the break. Season to remember, Toby Rudolph for the Sharks. Sione Katoa, parallel for the Sharks. Season to remember, Cameron Smith for Storm. Sean Johnson, parallel for Sharks. Rising Stars, Matt Dory for the Bulldogs. Milwaukee Fotowaika for the Titans. Yellow Star Toons, Martin Tapau for Manly. Wildcard, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for Warriors. Nathan Cleary, parallel for Panthers. Wrong end. Amiso Fido for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Josh Aloi, parallel for Tigers. Blake Ferguson, parallel for Eels. Yellow Star Tunes for the Dragons, Mikhail Ravalawa. Wild card, Nathan Cleary for the Panthers. Daniel Saifiti, parallel for Knights. Adam Elliott, parallel for Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Connor Tracy for the Sharks. Tommy Talau, parallel for the Tigers. Yellow Star Toon, around the wrong way. Adam Elliott for the Bulldogs. I'm not bad at any of them ones yet, but anyway. Rising Stars, Jake Avarillo for the Bulldogs. Valentine Holmes, parallel for Cowboys. Clinton Gupson, parallel for Eels. Sean Johnson, Star Tunes for Sharks. What a game he played last night. Josh Jackson, parallel for the Bulldogs. I thought Panthers had it. Wouldn't say it was definitely one of Panthers' best games, that's for sure. Scott Drinkwater, Yellow Star Tunes for the Cowboys. Wildcard, Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Sharks parallel checklist. Manly parallel checklist. Sorry. White Street Art, Dylan Brown for the Eels. Nick Meaney, parallel for the Bulldogs. And Authentic Series, Foil Sig, Brian Kelly for the Titans. Dale Finnecane, parallel for the Storm. We have Blue Star Toon Group A. So once again, that'll be randomised between the 8 teams featured on the card. Kai O'Donnell, Rising Stars for Raiders. Tavita Tatala, parallel for Rabbits. Adam Pompey, Rising Stars for Warriors. Matthew Duffy, parallel for Dragons. Season to Remember, Martin Tapau for Manly. Braden Hemlin Yulee, parallel for the Sharks. Blue Star Tunes for the Warriors. Roger Tuivasa Shaq. Season to remember. Suliasi Vunivalu for the Storm. Wade Graham, parallel for Sharks. Ken Mormalo, parallel for the Warriors. Scott Drinkwater, Star Tunes for Cowboys. Luke Brooks, parallel for Tigers. Titans, Ashley Taylor, Yellow Star Tunes. Welcome, Mark. We have Mitchell Orbison, retirements for Roosters. Zach Lomax, parallel for Dragons. Rising Stars, Tom Starling for the Raiders. Rabbitohs checklist. Welcome, Matthew. Season to remember, Dally Cherry Evans for Manly. Kurt Mann, parallel for Knights. We have a black Group A Star Tunes. Number 45. Once again, that'll get randomized at the end. Jackson Paulo, Rising Stars for the Rabbits. Jason Tormalolo, parallel for Cowboys. Wildcard, Josh Hodgson for the Raiders. Jack Whiten, parallel for the Raiders. Season to remember, Charlie Staines for Panthers. Joseph Leilua, parallel for Tigers. Blue Star Tunes, Mikhail Ravaloa for the Dragons. Wildcard, Chance Nicole Klokstad for the Raiders. Joseph Tapine, parallel for the Raiders. Rising Stars, Stephen Crichton for Panthers. Warriors parallel checklist. Tom Dearden, parallel for Broncos. Yellow Star Toon, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors. We have Cameron Murray, Star Toons for the Rabbits. Angus Crichton, parallel for the Roosters. Reece Robson, parallel for Cowboys. David Gower, retirement for Eels. Palami Kikau, parallel for Panthers. Alright, we have Red Star Toons for Adam Elliott for the Bulldogs, number 69. Wildcard, Sean Johnson for the Sharks. Jordan Piera, parallel for Dragons. Tommy Talau, Rising Stars for the Tigers. Broncos, parallel checklist. Team Wildcard for the Rabbits. Nick Meaney, parallel for the Bulldogs. We have Black Star Toons, number 24, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Season to remember, Toby Rudolph for the Sharks. Cody Nikorima, parallel for the Warriors. Brad Parker, parallel for Manly. Team Wildcard for Eels. Boyd Cordner, parallel for Roosters. Black Star Toons, number 22, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Kalen Ponga, Star Toons for Knights. Regan Campbell Gillard, parallel for the Eels. Team Wildcard for the Roosters. Michael Morgan, parallel for Cowboys. Wildcard, Daly Cherry Evans for Manly. Luke Brooks, parallel for Tigers. Apasai Coruscant, Yellow Star Tunes for Panthers. Jackson Paulo, Rising Stars for the Rabbits. Jake Trbojevic, parallel for Manly. Josh Hodgson, parallel for Raiders. Connolly Lumi Lou, Rising Stars for the Cowboys. Luke Thompson, parallel for Bulldogs. We have Yellow Star Tunes, Luke Brooks for the Tigers. White Street Art, Milwaukee Photo Ica for the Titans. Kurt Mann, parallel for Knights. Season to Remember, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Chance Nicole Klokstad, parallel for Raiders. We have Josh Jackson, Black Street Art for Bulldogs. Herbie Farnworth, parallel for Broncos. Mikhail Ravalawa, Blue Star Tunes for Dragons. White Street Art, Ben Hunt for the Dragons. Rabbitohs parallel checklist. Season to Remember, Sonny Bill Williams for the Roosters. Adam Elliott, parallel for Bulldogs. Tommy Talau, parallel for Tigers. Blue Star Tune, Sean Johnson for the Sharks. We've got 4 more starter packs, guys. Rising Stars, Adam Clune for the Dragons. Corey Oates, parallel for Broncos. Tanner Boyd, Rising Stars for the Titans. Mitchell Moses, parallel for the Eels. Season to Remember, Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons. Zach Lomax, parallel for the Dragons. Another Group A Black Star Tune. This time number 29. White Street Art, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. David Clemmer, parallel for the Knights. Jerome Luai, parallel for Panthers. Jake Averillo for the Bulldogs. Cowboys parallel checklist. Loose Star Tunes Group B. Rising Stars, Ray Stone for the Eels. David Fusitua, parallel for Warriors. Hamoli Olakatu, Rising Stars for Manly. Kalen Ponga, parallel for Knights. Lachlan Lamb, Rising Stars for the Roosters. Liam Martin, parallel for Panthers. Blue Star Tunes, Luke Brooks for the Tigers. Rising Stars, Jackson Paulo for the Rabbits. Scott Drinkwater, parallel for Cowboys. Rising Stars, Connolly Lumi Lou for the Cowboys. Joseph Leilua, parallel for Tigers. We have Aiden Guerrera, retirement for Knights. Will Hopewade, parallel for Bulldogs. And our last starter pack, guys. We have Yellow Star Tunes, Martin Tapau for Manly. Alright. Rising Stars, Bo Formore for the Titans. Felice Kafusi, parallel for Storm. Star Tunes, Luke Brooks for the Tigers. Titans, parallel checklists. Did I say Luke Brooks for the Titans or Tigers then? Definitely Tigers for Luke Brooks. Wildcard, Mitchell Pearce for the Knights. Dallin Watine Zalesniak for the parallel for the Bulldogs. Before we get stuck into that case, guys, I'm just quickly going to run to the toilet. I'll be back. Alright guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. Here's the case. So we'll open it up. Chris Lawrence, retirement case card for the Tigers. Number 52. Get that up on there. Not really. I want to show up through the thing anyway. Alright. I'll just hide that down there like that. Yeah. I'm just going to quickly pull all these out, make it easier to grab them. Alright. And we have our 2 priority boxes as well at the end. Alright, Rising Stars, Jake Averillo for the Bulldogs. Hi Harley, welcome. Corey Thompson, parallel for Titans. Peter Hiku, parallel for Warriors. Wildcard, Brian Kelly for the Titans. James Tedesco for Roosters. Star Tunes, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors. Kenneth Bromwich, parallel for Storm. White Streeter, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Tanila Paseka, parallel for Manly. Season to remember, Alex Johnston for the Rabbits. Kalen Ponga, parallel for Knights. Tanner Boyd, Rising Stars for Titans. Ryan Pappenhausen, parallel for Storm. Clinton Gutherson, parallel for Eels. We have Club Hero, Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbits. Jordan McLean, parallel for Cowboys. Wildcard, Tom Trbojevic for Manly. Panthers parallel checklist. Lachlan Lamb, Rising Stars for the Roosters. Mitchell Moses, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Tom Starling for Raiders. Damien Cook, parallel for the Rabbits. James Fisher-Harris, parallel for the Panthers. Season to remember, Sonny Bill Williams for the Roosters. Almost said Rabbits. Luke Brooks for Tigers. Rising Stars, Adam Clune for Dragons. Luke Thompson, parallel for Bulldogs. Herbie Farnworth, parallel for Broncos. Rising Stars, Connolly Lumilu for the Cowboys. David Nofaluma, parallel for Tigers. Black Streeter, Milwaukee Photo Ica for Titans. Josh Jackson, parallel for Bulldogs. Wildcard, Jack Whiten for Raiders. Chance Nico Klokstad, parallel for the Raiders. Amali Olakatu, Rising Stars for Manly. And Daly Cherry Evans for Manly, parallel. Stephen Crichton, Rising Stars for Panthers. David Fusitua, parallel for Warriors. Mikhail Ravalawa, Star Tunes for Dragons. Tigers, parallel checklist. Season to remember, Hamiso Fido for the Cowboys. Mitchell Barnett, parallel for the Knights. Jerome Hughes, parallel for Storm. Braden Trindle, Rising Stars for the Sharks. Dylan Brown, parallel for Eels. Season to remember, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Katoni Staggs, parallel for Broncos. G'day Blake over on YouTube. Hanaso Fido for Cowboys. White Street Art. Brett Morris, parallel for Roosters. Chris Lawrence, retirements for Tigers. Mikhail Ravalawa, parallel for Dragons. Season to remember, Clinton Gufferson for the Eels. Sharks, parallel checklist. Wildcard, Clinton Gufferson for the Eels. Stephen Crichton for Panthers, parallel. Season to remember, Mikhail Ravalawa for Dragons. Latrell Mitchell, parallel for the Rabbits. Rising Stars, Tessie New for Broncos. Adam Clune, parallel for Dragons. Chad Townsend, parallel for Sharks. Team Wildcard for Bulldogs. Anthony Don, parallel for Titans. Ray Stone, Rising Stars for Eels. Janamis Luai, parallel for Raiders. Rising Stars, Jackson Paulo for the Rabbits. Valentine Holmes, parallel for Cowboys. Rising Stars, Jermaine Tanua-Brown for the Warriors. Aaron Woods, parallel for the Sharks. White Street Art, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbits. Ashley Taylor, parallel for Titans. Season to remember, Chanel Harris-Tavita for the Warriors. Kyle Felt, parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Bradman Best for the Knights. Cade Cust, parallel for Manly. Bradman Best, parallel for Knights. Team Wildcard for Panthers. Brendan Smith for Storm. Rising Stars, Pawasa Farmasili for the Roosters. Parramatta Eels checklist. Sean Law, Rising Stars for Tigers. Jake Turpin, parallel for Broncos. Sorry guys, just hopefully that helps a bit. Yeah. It was just no, I don't think so. I don't think that's what it is. I was playing with my light settings, but yeah. Season to remember. Cody Ramsey for the Dragons. Campbell Graham, parallel for the Rabbits. White Streeter, Renato Mulitalo for the Sharks. Isaiah Yeo for Panthers. Season to remember. Rising Stars, Xavier Coates for Broncos. Paul Vaughan, parallel for Dragons. Yes, me and Dad are both Blues supporters. It was definitely a good game. Season to remember, Mitchell Orbison for the Roosters. Welcome, Darren. Luciano Leilua for the Tigers. Rising Stars, Max Feagai for the Dragons. Bulldogs, parallel checklist. Xavier Coates, parallel for Broncos. Wildcard, Paul Vaughan for Dragons. Josh Papali for Raiders. Star Tunes, Sean Johnson for the Sharks. Raymond for Tyler Mariner for Bulldogs. George Williams, parallel for Raiders. Rising Stars, Isaac Loom for Storm. Jake Friend, parallel for Roosters. William Kennedy, parallel for the Sharks. Wildcard, Dylan Napa, parallel for the Bulldogs, sorry. Titans parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Bailey Sirinen for the Rabbits. Reece Robson, parallel for the Cowboys. Star Tunes, Kalen Ponga. Eliza Katoa, parallel for Warriors. Season to remember, Benji Marshall for the Tigers. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors. Predictor, Eels Predictor. Number 128. Brad Parker for Manly. Parallel. Rising Stars, Caleb Aikens for Panthers. Jazz Tavega, parallel for Warriors. Black Streeter, Suicide Takahawi for Roosters. Angus Crichton, parallel for Roosters. Season to remember, Adam Reynolds for the Rabbits. David Clemmer for Knights. Yeah, we had the same side we did this week, or last week I should say, this week. Adam Reynolds, parallel for Rabbits. Then I'll be very surprised if we don't take out the next game. Yeah, well that's it. Considering they said the Maroons side last year was the worst one ever, and they pulled off the Tremaine Sparrow, Rising Stars for Titans. Felice Kafusi, parallel for Storm. Yeah, Maroons come back for the win last year. Who knows? But it definitely looked good, that's for sure. James Tedesco, club hero for Roosters. Micah Sibbo, parallel for Eels. Mitchell Dunn, Rising Stars for Cowboys. Jerome Luai, parallel for Panthers. Season to remember, Josh Mansell for Panthers. Thomas McHale, parallel for Tigers. Nick Meaney, parallel for Bulldogs. Dylan Brown, Rising Stars for the Eels. Broncos, parallel checklist. Wildcard, Luke Keary for the Roosters. Jared Croker, parallel for the Raiders. Wildcard, David Nofaluma for the Tigers. Ben Hunt, parallel for Dragons. That's another box down. Rising Stars, Jake Averillo for the Bulldogs. Phillips Semi, parallel for Titans. Rising Stars, Tom Starling for the Raiders. Rabbits, parallel checklist. Star Tunes, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Cameron Munster, parallel for the Storm. Lachlan Lamb, Rising Stars for Roosters. Reid Marnie for the Eels. Club Heroes, Jermaine Joloffe for the Titans. Michael Morgan, parallel for Cowboys. We both support Eels. My dad, my mum and brother, they both support Broncos. Apasai Coruscant, parallel for Panthers. My partner and my grandparents both support Eels. So Eels are the dominant family, and all the Eels supporters support the Blues. Season to remember, Sonny Bill Williams for Roosters. Joseph Leilua, parallel for Tigers. Obviously mum and my brother, they support Maroons. And what? Yeah, I know. They won't listen to reason, but anyway, we let them go. Rising Stars for the Dragons. Will Hopper Wade for the Bulldogs. Gavin Cooper, retirements for the Cowboys. Zach Lomax for the Dragons. Thomas Flegler, parallel for the Broncos. Yeah, there's normally someone feeling miserable. He goes, Origin night must be fun at your house. Chance Nico Klokstad. That's it. Wild card for Raiders. Jack Whiten, parallel for Raiders. Rising Stars, Stephen Crichton for Panthers. Tohu Harris, parallel for Warriors. Hamiso Fido, White Street Art for Cowboys. Roosters parallel checklist.
So what does everyone think about Mitchell Pearce going to Tigers?
I hadn't heard that one.
The inside word is they're being secret talk.
There you go. Mitchell Pearce might be going to the Tigers. They're being in secret talks apparently. What does everyone think about that one? That's interesting. Season to remember, Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons. Jaden Sewer, parallel for the Rabbits. Rising Stars, Tessie New for the Broncos. Cameron McInnes, parallel for Dragons. Yeah, that's what Dad was just reading.
Oh,
The Mole has released it apparently. Mitchell Pearce and Tigers have been in secret talks. Sione Katoa, parallel for Sharks. Season to remember, Clint Gutherson for the Eels. Wade Graham, parallel for the Sharks. Team wildcard for the Storm. Tanner Boyd, parallel for the Titans. Rising Stars, Jackson Paulo for the Rabbits. Jason Tormalolo, parallel for the Cowboys. Yes, that'll be a very interesting one if it turns out to be true. White Streeter, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Tom Trbojevic, Tommy Turbo for Manly. Season to remember, Alex Johnston for the Rabbits. Daniel Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. I reckon Mr. Corden has got to retire at the end of this year. Regan Campbell Gillard, parallel for Eels. Wildcard and Daly Cherry Evans for Manly. Liam Martin, parallel for Panthers. Colony Loomy Lou, Rising Stars for the Cowboys. Tommy Talau, parallel for Tigers. Black Streeter, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Adam Elliott, parallel for the Bulldogs. Molly Olakatu, Rising Stars for Manly. Jake Trbojevic, parallel for Manly. Season to remember, Amaso Fido for the Cowboys. Kurt Mann, parallel for Knights. Season to remember, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Corey Oates, parallel for Broncos. Wildcard for the Eels, Mitchell Moses. James Fisher-Harris for Panthers, parallel. Star Tunes, Group B. Luke Brooks, parallel for the Tigers. Rising Stars, Ray Stone for the Eels. Josh Hodgson, parallel for the Raiders. Kenneth Bromwich, parallel for Storm. Rising Stars, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Mitchell Moses, parallel for Eels. Ken Marlowe, parallel for the Warriors. Wildcard, Maoki Foda Ika for the Titans. Josh Morris, parallel for Roosters. Tanner Boyd, Rising Stars for the Titans. Storm, parallel checklist. Season to remember, Caitlin Ponga for the Knights. Cody Nikarima, parallel for Warriors. Rising Stars, Freddie Lussick for the Roosters. Blake Ferguson, parallel for the Eels. Retirements, James Graham for the Dragons. Nathan Cleary, parallel for Panthers. Star Tunes, Apasai Coruscant for Panthers. Boyd Cordner, parallel for Roosters. Rising Stars, Semi Valemi for the Raiders. Tavita Tatala, parallel for the Rabbits. Jordan Piera, parallel for Dragons. Season to remember, Micah Sivo for the Eels. Braden Hamley-Yulee, parallel for the Sharks. Rising Stars, Brendan Wakeham for the Bulldogs. Alexander Brimson, parallel for the Titans. Triple M has just reported that the Broncos have pulled out of the race to sign Dufty. Well, there you go. Cowboys parallel checklist. Was there any reasoning on that? There's someone else they're going to try and chase. Season to remember, Martin Tapau for Manly. Josh Alloway, parallel for Tigers. Club Heroes, Tohu Harris for the Warriors. Tom Dearden, parallel for Broncos. Wild card, Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Moses Sulai, parallel for Manly. Rising Stars, Cooper Johns for Storm. Suicide Takahari for the Roosters. Black Streeter, Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Cameron Murray, parallel for Rabbitohs. Sean Johnson, wildcard for Sharks. Matthew Duffy for the Dragons, parallel. No, I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh, good mate. Oh, yeah. Cade Cust, Rising Stars for Manly. Heimel Hunt, parallel for Knights. White Street Art, Josh Mansour, Panthers. Dale Finnecane, parallel for Storm. Season to remember, Gavin Cooper for Cowboys. Ryan Madison, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Connor Tracy for the Sharks. Falami Kickout, parallel for Panthers. Adam Dewey, parallel for Tigers. Cade Ellis, Rising Stars for Dragons. Dylan Napa, parallel for Bulldogs. Team wildcard for the Rabbits. Dallin Martin Zalesniak for the Bulldogs. Tommy Talau, Rising Stars for Tigers. Payne Haas, parallel for Broncos. Rising Stars, Hayes Perham for the Warriors. Jesse Ramian, parallel for the Sharks. Charlie Staines, Rising Stars for Panthers. Joseph Tapine, parallel for Raiders. Season to remember, Young Tona Maipe for the Titans. Warriors parallel checklist. Luke Keary, parallel for the Roosters. Toby Rudolph, Sharks Authentic Foil Sig. Jamal Fogarty, parallel for Titans. Season to remember, Cameron Smith for Storm. Josh Maguire, parallel for Cowboys. Phoenix Crossland, Rising Stars for the Knights. Manly parallel checklist. Star Tunes, Luke Brooks for the Tigers. Sean Johnson, parallel for Sharks. Herbie Farnworth, Rising Stars for Broncos. Dane Gagai, parallel for the Rabbits. Latrell Mitchell, wild card for the Rabbits. Tarek Sims, parallel for the Dragons. Mitchell Pearce, parallel for Knights. Wildcard, Jesse Bromwich for the Storm. Nelson Asafa Solomona, parallel for the Storm. White Street Art, Josh Jackson for the Bulldogs. Raiders parallel checklist. Black Street Art, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbits. Jake Friend, parallel for the Roosters. Wild card, Luciano Leilua for the Tigers. Dragons parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Jermaine Tanua Brown for the Warriors. Blake Brayley, parallel for the Sharks. Yeah, well, I thought when I heard the name Rivals, that was my first initial thought. That's what they were doing. Tigers.
Something else to call a cheap set for
White Street Art. No, Rodney White was saying that TIA should bring out a mid-season Origin release. And that's what I was saying when I first heard Rivalries. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Brian Kelly, parallel for Titans. Season to remember, Cameron Smith for the Storm. Hamiso Fido, parallel for Cowboys. Rising Stars, Bradman Best for the Knights. Curtis Sirenen, parallel for Manly. G'day Richard. Welcome mate. Lachlan Fitzgibbon, parallel for the Knights. Sean Bloor, Rising Stars for the Tigers. Patrick Carrigan, parallel for Broncos. Team Wildcard for the Dragons. Jesse Bromwich, parallel for Storm. Startoon, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Jake Avarillo, parallel for Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Poasa Farmasili for the Roosters. Junior Paulo, parallel for Eels. Elliot Whitehead, parallel for Raiders. White Streeter, Mitchell Barnett for the Knights. Dylan Edwards, parallel for Bulldogs. Panthers. Excuse me. Season to remember, Tom Trbojevic for Manly. Alex Twal, parallel for Tigers. Rising Stars, Max Vigai for the Dragons. Raymond Faitala Mariner for the Bulldogs. Jake Turpin, parallel for Broncos. Season to remember, Anari Tuwala for the Knights. Chanel Harris Tavita, parallel for the Warriors. Wildcard, Ben Hunt for the Dragons. George Williams, parallel for Raiders. Caleb Aikens, Rising Stars for Panthers. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, parallel for Warriors. Season to remember, Ashley Taylor for Titans. Adam Reynolds, parallel for the Rabbits. Xavier Coates, Rising Stars for the Broncos. Ben Hunt, parallel for the Dragons. Aaron Woods, parallel for the Sharks. Wildcard, Will Hopewade for the Bulldogs. Ashley Taylor, parallel for Titans. We have Star Tunes, Cameron Murray for the Rabbits. Chaz Tavega, parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Bailey Sheridan for the Rabbits. Kyle Felt, parallel for Cowboys. Authentic Foil Sig, Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Kate Cust, parallel for Manly. Season to remember, Ronaldo Mulitalo for the Sharks. DK, welcome mate. Bradman Best for the Knights. Rising Stars, Tremaine Spry for the Titans. Brendan Smith, parallel for Storm. Club Hero, Clinton Gufferson for the Eels. Parramatta Eels, parallel checklist. Isaac Loomy Loom for the Storm, Rising Stars. Jared Guerrero Hargraves for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Mitchell Dunn for the Cowboys. Hey Brendan, Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Season to remember, Jake Avarillo for the Bulldogs. Luciano Leilua, parallel for Tigers. Bulldogs parallel checklist. For anyone that is on the Gold Coast, we are doing a gala day at Nareen tomorrow. Raising money with a pass the ball comp. All the money from the pass the ball comp will go to the club. And we'll have some deals down there on albums and cards. Rising Stars, Dylan Brown, Xavier Coates, parallel. So even if you don't know anyone playing, come down, support the Junior Rugby League and maybe win a prize. Wildcard, Boyd Cordner for the Roosters. Josh Trafali for the Raiders. Or come down and see what bargains you can grab. Cody Walker, parallel for the Rats. Hopefully it's a nice day, probably just a little bit chilly. Been a bit chilly up here the last few days, a bit windy. Hopefully the sun's out and the wind stays away and it'll be sweet. William Kennedy, Rising Stars for the Sharks. Nathan Cleary, parallel for Panthers. Yeah, no, if it looks like rain, we can't go. The cards get wet. And yeah, that's not on. Hamiso Fido, Rising Stars for Cowboys. Adam Dewey, parallel for Tigers. If it looks like rain, it's just not worth the risk. White Street Art, Dylan Brown for the Eels. Dallin Watine Zalesniak, parallel for the Bulldogs. Season to remember, Josh Jackson for the Bulldogs. We take a marquee, but we still got to get it out of the van and back into the van, and the storage, yeah, it's just too hard with the cards being cardboard. Payne Haas for the Broncos. Oregon Kafusi, Rising Stars for the Eels. Raiders parallel checklist. Cody Nikarima for the Warriors. Team Wildcard for the Eels. Suicide Takahari for the Roosters. Wildcard, Cody Nikarima for the Warriors. Valami Kikau for the Panthers, parallel. Kai O'Donnell for the Raiders, Rising Stars. Cameron Murray, parallel for the Rabbits. White Street Art, Jared Croker for the Raiders. Matthew Duffy, parallel for the Dragons. Star Tunes, Apasai Coruscant for Panthers. Alexander Brimson, parallel for Titans. Rising Stars, Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbits. Cowboys parallel checklist. Season to remember, Jack Whiten for Raiders. Jesse Ramian, parallel for Sharks. Rising Stars, Matt Dory for the Bulldogs. Jamal Fogarty, parallel for Titans. Josh Alloway, parallel for Tigers. Black Streeter, Hamiso Fido for the Cowboys. Josh Maguire, parallel for the Cowboys. Wild card, Alex Glenn for the Broncos. Manly parallel checklist. Wild card, Mitchell Pearce for the Knights. Dylan Napa, parallel for Bulldogs. Season to remember, Toby Rudolph for the Sharks. Heimel Hunt, parallel for Knights. Rising Stars, Tavita Funa for Manly. Mitchell Pearce, parallel for Knights. Moses Sulai, parallel for Manly. Authentic Foil Sig, Nick Meaney for the Bulldogs. Nasa Nasafa Solomona for Storm. Rising Stars, Asu Kapawa for the Tigers. Tom Dearden, parallel for Broncos. Startoons, Luke Brooks for the Tigers. Knights, parallel checklist. Joseph Tapine, parallel for Raiders. Season to remember, David Nofaluma for the Tigers. Warriors parallel checklist. Sorry guys. That should be right again. Bo Formal, Rising Stars for Titans. Dale Finucane, parallel for Storm. Rising Stars, Nico Hines for the Storm. Luke Keary, parallel for Roosters. Club Heroes, Jacob Avarillo for Bulldogs. Dane Gagai, parallel for Rabbits. Rising Stars, Adam Pompey for the Warriors. Tarek Sims, parallel for Dragons. Season to remember, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors. Sean Johnson, parallel for the Sharks. Mawaika Photoika. Mawaiki. can normally say it, parallel for the Titans, or at least I think I can. I like it. Rising Stars, Tex Hoy for the Knights. Scott Drinkwater, parallel for the Cowboys. Wildcard, Jason Taumalolo for the Cowboys. Tavita Funa, parallel for Manly. Ryan Madison, parallel for Eels. Season to remember, Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. Blake Ferguson, parallel for the Eels. And that's another box down, guys. Season to remember, Cody Ramsey for the Dragons. Cody Walker, parallel for the Rabbits. White Streeter, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbits. Corey Thompson, parallel for Titans. Season to remember, Chanel Harris-Tavita for the Warriors. Jordan McLean, parallel for the Cowboys. Rising Stars, Bradman Best for the Knights. Daly Cherry Evans, parallel for Manly. Mitchell Barnett, parallel for Knights. Team Wildcard for the Tigers. Jerome Hughes, parallel for Storm. Rising Stars, Sean Bloor for Tigers. Katoni Staggs, parallel for Broncos. Rising Stars, Pawasa Masuli for the Roosters. Dylan Brown, parallel for Eels. Ronaldo Mulitalo, rising straight up for the Sharks. Stephen Crichton, parallel for Panthers. Season to remember, Mitchell Orbison for the Roosters. Tigers parallel checklist. Dunamis Luai, parallel for Raiders. Rising Stars, Max Feaguy for the Dragons. Jake Averillo, parallel for Bulldogs. Patrick Carrigan, parallel for Broncos. Rising Stars, Xavier Coates for the Broncos. Dragons, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Isaac Loom for the Storm. James Tedesco, parallel for the Roosters. Wildcard, Zach Lomax for the Dragons. Elliot Whitehead, parallel for the Raiders. Mitchell Moses, Star Tunes for the Eels. Josh Jackson, parallel for Bulldogs. Season to remember, Benji Marshall for the Tigers. Peter Hiku, parallel for Warriors. Blake Brayley, parallel for the Sharks. Wildcard, Adam Elliott for the Bulldogs. Ryan Kelly, parallel for the Titans. Caleb Aikens, Rising Stars for Panthers. Chanel Harris Tavita, parallel for Warriors. Black Streeter, Dylan Brown for the Eels. Jared Riera Hargraves for the Roosters. Elliot and that. Rising Stars, Jermaine Tanua Brown for the Warriors. Sharks parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Bailey Sheridan for the Rabbits. Hamiso Fido for the Cowboys. Star Tunes, Martin Tapau for Manly. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors, parallel. Damien Cook, parallel for the Rabbits. Top tries for Robert Kelly with the Rabbits. Number 36. Curtis Sirenen, parallel for Manly. Season to remember, Adam Reynolds for the Rabbits. Lachlan Fitzgibbon, parallel for the Knights. Trayman Spry, Rising Stars for the Titans. Jesse Bromwich, parallel for Storm. G'day Brendan, welcome mate. Club Heroes, Toby Rudolph for the Sharks. Junior Paulo, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Mitchell Dunn for the Cowboys. Dylan Edwards, parallel for Panthers. Wildcard, Luke Brooks for the Tigers. Mikhail Ravalawa for the Dragons. Season to remember, Josh Mansour for Panthers. Alex Twal, parallel for Tigers. Raymond Faitala Mariner for the Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Dylan Brown for the Eels. Jake Turpin, parallel for Broncos. Wildcard, James Tedesco for the Roosters. George Williams, parallel for Raiders. Alright, another box. Rising Stars, Jake Averillo for the Bulldogs. Anthony Don, parallel for Titans. Rising Stars, Tom Starling for the Raiders. Latrell Mitchell, parallel for the Rabbits. Rising Stars, Lachlan Lamb for the Roosters. Regan Campbell-Gillard, parallel for the Eels. Liam Martin, parallel for Panthers. Season to remember, Daly Cherry Evans for Manly. Tommy Talau, parallel for Tigers. Adam Clune, Rising Stars for the Dragons. Adam Elliott, parallel for Bulldogs. We have another David Gower, retirements for the Eels. Adam Clune, parallel for the Dragons. Corey Oates, parallel for Broncos. Wild card, Josh Hodgson for the Raiders. Parallel, Josh Hodgson for the Raiders. Rising Stars, Stephen Crichton for Panthers. Ken Mormarlo, parallel for Warriors. Star Tunes, Payne Huss for Broncos. Storm, parallel checklist. Ben Hunt, white street art for Dragons. Josh Morris, parallel for Roosters. Season to remember, Philip Sammy for the Titans. Rabbitohs parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Tessie New for the Broncos. Zach Lomax, parallel for the Dragons. (2020) season to remember, Jared Croker for the Raiders. Chad Townsend, parallel for Sharks. Wade Graham, parallel for the Sharks. Team wildcard for the Raiders. Philip Sammy, parallel for Titans. Jackson Paulo, Rising Stars for the Rabbits. Michael Morgan, parallel for Cowboys. White Street Art, Milwaukee Fotoika for the Titans. Jake Trbojevic, parallel for Manly. Sione Katoa for the Sharks, season to remember. Kurt Mann, parallel for Knights. Rising Stars, Tanner Boyd for the Titans. Kenneth Bromwich, parallel for Storm. Black Street Art, Josh Jackson for the Bulldogs. Mitchell Moses, parallel for the Eels. Wildcard, Jake Trbojevic for Manly. James Fisher-Harris, parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Connolly Lumi for the Cowboys. Luke Brooks, parallel for Tigers. Curtis Sirenen, Authentics Foil Sig for Manly. Luke Thompson, parallel for the Bulldogs. Season to remember, Nick Meaney for the Bulldogs. Herbie Farnworth, parallel for Broncos. Club hero, Jack Whiten for the Raiders. Valentine Holmes, parallel for Cowboys. Rising Stars, Amoli Olakatu for Manly. Tanila Paseka, parallel for Manly. Rising Stars, Ray Stone for the Eels. Chance Nicole Klokstad, parallel for Raiders. Star Tunes, Adam Elliott for the Bulldogs. David Nofaluma, parallel for Tigers. David Fusitua, parallel for Warriors. Rising Stars, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Clint Guffson, parallel for the Eels. Wildcard, Ryan Madison for the Eels. Panthers parallel checklist. Season to remember, David Fifita for the Broncos. Kalen Ponga, parallel for Knights. Ryan Pappenhausen, parallel for Storm. Wildcard, Alexander Brimson for the Titans. Brett Morris, parallel for Roosters. Alright, another box down. Season to remember, Tony Staggs for the Broncos. Regan Campbell-Gillard, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbits. Scott Drinkwater, parallel for the Cowboys. Season to remember, Josh Jackson for the Bulldogs. Thomas Flegler, parallel for Broncos. Rising Stars, Oregon Kafusi for the Eels. Jack Whiten, parallel for Raiders. Tavita Funa, parallel for Manly. Tohu Harris, parallel for Warriors. Season to remember, Toby Rudolph for the Sharks. Knights, parallel checklist. William Kennedy, Rising Stars for the Sharks. Liam Martin, parallel for Panthers. Team Wildcard for the Knights. Roosters, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Kai O'Donnell for the Raiders. Jaden Sewer, parallel for Rabbits. White Street Art, Jared Croker for the Raiders. Cameron McInnes, parallel for Dragons. Season to remember, Jack Whiten for the Raiders. Sione Katoa, parallel for Sharks. Rising Stars, Bo Formore for the Titans. Cameron Munster, parallel for Storm. Rising Stars, Matt Dory for the Bulldogs. Tanner Boyd, parallel for Titans. Star Tunes, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Mawaiki Fotowaka for Titans. Jason Taumalolo, parallel for Cowboys. Wildcard, Corey Oates for Broncos. Tom Trebojevic, parallel for Manly. Wildcard, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors. Apasai Coruscant, parallel for Panthers. Tommy Talau, parallel for Tigers. Reid Marnie, parallel for Eels. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Rising Stars, Tavita Funa for Manly. Daniel Saifidi, parallel for Knights. Black Street Art, Ben Hunt for the Dragons. Storm, parallel checklist. Wildcard, David Clemmer for the Knights. Adam Elliott, parallel for Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Asu Kapoa for the Tigers. Corey Oates, parallel for Broncos. Star Tunes, a Group B. Kurt Mann, parallel for Knights. We have a Joseph Tapine, authentic white sig for the Raiders. Josh Hodgson, parallel for Raiders. Season to remember, David Nofaluma for the Tigers. Ken Mormalo, parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Nico Hines for Storm. Josh Morris, parallel for Roosters. Club Heroes, Tyson Frizzell for the Dragons. Rabbitohs parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Hamiso Fido for the Cowboys. Joseph Leilua, parallel for Tigers. Rising Stars, Adam Pompey for the Warriors. Zach Lomax, parallel for Dragons. Season to remember, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors. Wade Graham, parallel for the Sharks. Philip Semi. I'll just make sure there's nothing odd. No, no good. No. Philip Semi, parallel for Titans. Rising Stars, Tex Hoy for Knights. Michael Morgan, parallel for Cowboys. Wildcard, Scott Drinkwater for Cowboys. Jake Trbojevic, parallel for Manly. White Street Art, Dylan Brown for the Eels. Will Hopewade, parallel for Bulldogs. Jared Croker, Black Street Art for the Raiders. Titans parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Cade Cust for Manly. Bradman Best, parallel for Knights. White Street Art, Josh Mansour for Panthers. Brendan Smith, parallel for Storm. Season to remember, Gavin Cooper for the Cowboys. Eels checklist. Connor Tracy, Rising Stars for the Sharks. Isaiah Yeo, parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Semi Valemi for the Raiders. Adam Reynolds, parallel for the Rabbits. Luciano Leilua, parallel for the Tigers. Team wildcard for the Warriors. Bulldogs parallel checklist. Ben Hunt, parallel for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Tommy Talau for the Tigers. Xavier Coates, parallel for Broncos. Star Tunes, Caleb Ponga for Knight. Braden Hamley-Yuli for the Sharks, parallel. White Streeter, Josh Jackson for the Bulldogs. Josh Papali, parallel for the Raiders. Season to remember, Cameron Smith for the Storm. Reece Robson, parallel for Cowboys. Rising Stars, Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Brad Parker, parallel for Manly. David Clemmer, parallel for Knights. Rising Stars, Brendan Wakeham for the Bulldogs. Ashley Taylor, parallel for Titans. Wildcard, Felice Kafusi for the Storm. Felice Kafusi, parallel for the Storm. Rising Stars, Freddie Lussick for the Roosters. Micah Sivo, parallel for the Eels. Ethan Lowe, retirements for Panthers. Jerome Blueye, parallel for the Panthers. Season to remember, Martin Tapau for Manly. Thomas McHale, parallel for Tigers. Rising Stars, Cade Ellis for the Dragons. Nick Meaney, parallel for Bulldogs. Season to remember, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Jazz Tavega, parallel for the Warriors. Club Heroes, Payne Huss for Broncos. Broncos parallel checklist. Kyle Felt, parallel for Cowboys. Rising Stars, Charlie Staines for Panthers. Jared Croker, parallel for Raiders. Season to remember, young Tony Maipe for Titans. Eliza Katoa, parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Cooper Johns for Storm. Angus Crichton, parallel for Roosters. Season to remember, Micah Sivo for the Eels. Aaron Woods, parallel for the Sharks. Campbell Graham, parallel for the Rabbits. Wade Graham, wildcard for the Sharks. Paul Vaughan, parallel for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Hayes Perham for the Warriors. William Kennedy, parallel for the Sharks. Startoon, Sean Johnson for the Sharks. Jake Friend, parallel for the Roosters. Boyd Cordner, parallel for the Roosters. Herbie Farnworth, Rising Stars for Broncos. Tavita Tola, parallel for the Rabbits. Wildcard, Cody Walker for the Rabbits. Jordan Piera, parallel for the Dragons. Wildcard, Apisai Coruscant for Panthers. Cade Cust, parallel for Manly. Season to remember, Valentine Holmes for the Cowboys. Reed Marnie, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Hamiso Fido for the Cowboys. Josh Alloy, parallel for the Tigers. White Streeter, Suicide Tucker Howie for the Roosters. Dylan Napa, parallel for the Bulldogs. Season to remember, Charlie Staines for Panthers. Tom Dearden, parallel for Broncos. Oregon Kafusi, Rising Stars for the Eels. Joseph Tapine, parallel for the Raiders. Warriors parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbits. Josh Maguire, parallel for the Cowboys. Team Wildcard for the Titans. Luke Keary, parallel for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Kai O'Donnell for the Raiders. Dane Gagai, parallel for the Rabbits. Rising Stars, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Apasai Coruscant, parallel for Panthers. White Street Art, Jake Trebojevic for Manly. Tarek Sims, parallel for the Dragons. Season to Remember, Michael Jennings for the Eels. Sean Johnson, parallel for the Sharks. Manly parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Matt Dory for the Bulldogs. Moaka Fotoaika for the Titans, parallel. Kenneth Bromwich, Star Tune for Storm. Jamal Fogarty, parallel for the Titans. Scott Drinkwater, parallel for Cowboys. Wildcard, Payne Huss for Broncos. Tavita Funa, parallel for Manly. Tavita Funa, Rising Stars for Manly. Knight, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Asu Kapoa for the Tigers. Thomas Flegler, parallel for Broncos. Adam Blair, retirements for Warriors. More sleeves, by any chance, please. Jack Whiten, parallel for Raiders. Bo Formore, Rising Stars for Titans. Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. Season to Remember, Bradman Best for the Knights. Tohu Harris for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Nico Hines for Storm. Roosters, parallel checklist. Club Hero, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Jaden Sewer, parallel from Rabbits. Well, less than 3.5 boxes to go, guys. We are getting there. Adam Pompey, Rising Stars for the Warriors. Cameron McInnes, parallel for Dragons. Blake Ferguson, parallel for the Eels. Group A Star Tunes. Daniel Saifiti, parallel for the Knights. Season to Remember. Suliasi Vunivalu for the Storm. Sione Katoa for the Sharks. Tanner Boyd, parallel for Titans. Rising Stars, Tex Hoy for the Knights. Jason Taumalolo for the Cowboys. Wildcard, Valentine Holmes for the Cowboys. Tom Trbojevic, parallel for Manly. Joseph Leilua, parallel for Tigers. Wildcard, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Will Hopewade, parallel for the Bulldogs. Wildcard, Tohu Harris for the Warriors. Nathan Cleary, parallel for Panthers. Season to Remember, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbits. Mitchell Pearce, parallel for the Knights. Alright. Black Streeter, Josh Mansell for Panthers. Cameron Munster, parallel for Storm. This is our last hobby box. So the last of our cake. And then we have our 2 priority boxes left to go. So I'm pretty sure we've only managed to find one predictor so far. Billy Walters, Season to Remember for Tigers. Eliza Katoa for the Warriors. There we go. Sharks predictor. Number 60. Valami Kikau for Panthers. Josh Morris, Season to Remember for the Roosters. Adam Dewey, parallel for the Tigers. Ashley Taylor, Star Tunes for Titans. Angus Crichton, parallel for Roosters. Rising Stars, Semi Valemi for the Raiders. Campbell Graham, parallel for the Rabbits. Parallel, Paul Vaughan for Dragons. Season to remember, Josh Papali for the Raiders. William Kennedy, parallel for Sharks. Brendan Wakeham, Rising Stars for Bulldogs. Gold Coast Titans checklist. Reece Robson, parallel for Cowboys. Wildcard, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Brad Parker for Manly, parallel. Rising Stars, Cade Ellis for Dragons. Dallin Watine Zalesniak for the Bulldogs. Rising Stars, Kate Cust for Manly. David Clemmer, parallel for Knights. White Street Art, Cody Nikorima for the Warriors. Felice Kafusi, parallel for Storm. Season to remember, Tavita Pangai Jr. for the Broncos. Marcus Sivo, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Connor Tracy for the Sharks. Jerome Luai, parallel for Panthers. Thomas McHale, parallel for Tigers. Team Wildcard for the Cowboys. Nick Meaney, parallel for the Bulldogs. Club Hero, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Payne Haas, parallel for Broncos. Charlie Staines, Rising Stars for Panthers. Raiders parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Cooper Johns for Storm. Boyd Cordner, parallel for the Roosters. Tavita Totola, parallel for the Rabbits. Wildcard, Aaron Woods for the Sharks. Jordan Piera, parallel for Dragons. Season to remember, Cameron McInnes for the Dragons. Cody Nikorima, parallel for the Warriors. Rising Stars, Hayes Perham for the Warriors. Braden Hemlin Yuli, parallel for the Sharks. Black Streeter, Renato Mulitalo for the Sharks. Alexander Brimson, parallel for Titans. Season to remember, Peter Hiku for the Warriors. Cowboys, parallel checklist. Rising Stars, Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Moses Sulai, parallel for Manly. Suicide Takahawi for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Herbie Farnworth for the Broncos. Cameron Murray, parallel for the Rabbits. Hymel Hunt, parallel for Knights. Wildcard, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Dale Finucane, parallel for Storm. Wildcard, Adam Reynolds for the Rabbits. Matthew Duffy, parallel for the Dragons. Star Tunes, Elliot Whitehead for the Raiders. Jesse Ramian, parallel for Sharks. 3 more packets left in the case, guys. Rising Stars, Freddie Lussick for the Roosters. Ryan Madison, parallel for the Eels. Rising Stars, Tommy Talau for the Tigers. Broncos, parallel checklist. Ryan Pappenhausen, White Streeter for Storm. Jared Croker, parallel for the Tigers. Alright, give me a sec, I'll be back. Alright, sorry about that, everyone. So we have 2 priority boxes left and our Razzles to finish us off. Alright. Thanks for waiting, everyone, and let's finish up. Rising Stars, Herbie Farnworth for the Broncos. Adam Reynolds, parallel for the Rabbits. I think so, boy.
They say this afternoon, so I'm not sure why.
No, obviously I haven't been then. I can't see that. I seen him said hello. Yeah, no, I wasn't seeing them. Sorry, guys. Yes, we got a Sharks predictor. First one was an Eels one. Sorry, guys, I didn't realise they weren't coming through. Ah, Broncos predictor, number 61. Dylan Edwards, parallel for Panthers. Season to remember, Tavita Pengai Jr. for Broncos. Dylan Brown, parallel for Eels. Season to remember, Josh Morris for the Roosters. Alex Twal, parallel for the Tigers. Josh Mansell, White Street Art for Panthers. Jerome Hughes, parallel for Storm. Cade Ellis, Rising Stars for Dragons. Raymond Faitala Mariner for the Bulldogs. Wildcard, Adam Reynolds for the Rabbits. Ben Hunt, parallel for Dragons. Wildcard, Aaron Woods for the Sharks. Dragons checklist, parallel. Rising Stars, Cade Cust for Manly. Mitchell Barnett, parallel for the Knights. Kenneth Bromwich, Star Tunes. Aaron Woods for the Sharks. Here we go. Our first priority hit. Kurt Mann, Club Hero, number 9. Jake Turpin, parallel for Broncos. Wildcard, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Daly Cherry Evans, parallel for Manly. Charlie Staines, Rising Stars for Panthers. George Williams, parallel for the Raiders. Jordan McLean, parallel for the Cowboys. Season to remember, Cameron McInnes for the Dragons. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors. Semi Valemi, Rising Stars for the Raiders. Damien Cook, parallel for the Rabbits. Rising Stars, Cooper Johns for the Storm. Jared Riera-Hargraves for the Roosters. Rising Stars, Hayes Perham for the Warriors. Blake Brayley for the Sharks, parallel. Rising Stars, Brendan Wakeham for the Bulldogs. Corey Thompson, parallel for the Titans. Mikhail Ravalawa, parallel for the Dragons. Rising Stars, Connor Tracy for the Sharks. Stephen Crichton, parallel for Panthers. Rising Stars, Freddie Lussick for the Roosters. Junior Paulo, parallel for the Eels. Tigers parallel checklist. Group A, Star Tunes. Another one for the end. James Tedesco, parallel for the Roosters. Cody Walker, Rabbits parallel. Season to remember, Billy Walters for the Tigers. Chanel Harris-Tavita, parallel for the Warriors. Blackstreeter, Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Ryan Kelly, parallel for Titans. Jesse Bromwich, parallel for Storm. Hey! Number 14. Mr. DK, team wildcard for the Storm. And that one's number 14, guys. Jake Averillo, parallel for Bulldogs. Parallel, Lachlan Fitzgibbon for the Knights. No worries, Tommy Talau, Rising Stars for the Tigers. Patrick Kerrigan, parallel for Broncos. I have no idea, DK, if you already have one of them or not. Phoenix Crossland, Rising Stars for the Knights. Curtis Sirinen, parallel for Manly. Josh Jackson, White Street Art for the Bulldogs. Elliot Whitehead, parallel for Raiders. Season to remember, Peter Hiku for the Warriors. Hamaso Fido. I do, but 2 is always better. Parallel for the Cowboys. Oh, 1 must have to go to the girls then. If you've got 2, well. Season to remember, Josh Papali for the Raiders. Sharks parallel checklist. Jake Friend parallel for the Roosters. Well, he didn't respond, so maybe he's arguing with him. No, not happening. They'll be fighting over it. You know, just give them 1 folder to share. Well, there you go. Dad reckons you should give them 1 each, and then you just have to get yourself another one. Alright, so this is our last box, guys. Ben Hunt, White Street Art for the Dragons. Boyd Cordner, parallel for the Roosters. And once we're finished, I'll take team photos of the hits and we'll upload them. Black Street Art, Josh Jackson for the Bulldogs. Darren Watine Zalesniak, parallel for the Bulldogs. Why is there one on the website? I'm not sure about that. Jackson Paulo, Rising Stars for the Rabbits. Dad will let you know he's checking now. Cowboys checklist, parallel. Yeah, Dad said there's one on there, DK. Season to remember, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Payne Haas parallel for the Broncos. So come on, last box, can we pull a Legends? Alrighty, Fotowaka, White Street Art for Titans. Moses Sulai parallel for Manly. Don't forget, guys, if we are lucky enough to pull a Legends, it is randomised between all 16 teams. So fingers crossed. Jason Bakua, retirements for Sharks. Matthew Duffy, parallel for Dragons. Season to remember, Alex Johnston for the Rabbits. Heimel Hunt for the Knights. Rising Stars, Connolly Lumilu for the Cowboys. Adam Dewey, parallel for the Tigers. Season to remember, Clinton Gutherson for the Eels. Jesse Ramian, parallel for Sharks. Wildcard, Daly Cherry Evans for Manly. Valami Kickow, parallel for Panthers. Sean Johnson, Star Tunes for Sharks. Josh Alloway, parallel for Tigers. Jake Avarillo, Rising Stars for Bulldogs. Jamal Fogarty, parallel for Titans. Ryan Madison, parallel for Eels. Alright. Our next club here, our next priority is a club hero. Number 3, nice low number. Brian Kelly for Titans. Now I know who got Titans isn't a Titans fan. So to me that just proves that just because it's not your favourite club, you can still get some nice hits and get some trade value. Josh Maguire, parallel for Cowboys. Rising Stars, Tanner Boyd for the Titans. Dale Finnecane, parallel for Storm. Rising Stars, Hamoli Olakatu for Manly. Manly parallel checklist. Alright, we're almost down to halfway on this box, guys. Rising Stars, Ray Stone for the Eels. Raiders parallel checklist. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that. Wildcard, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Nathan Cleary, parallel for Panthers. Pardon?
13 minutes went before the Roosters scored.
There you go. Broncos parallel checklist. Cody Nikorima, parallel for the Warriors. Unfortunately, with that retirement coming out, I don't like our chances. Braden Trindle, Rising Stars for the Sharks. Blake Ferguson, parallel with the Eels. Not saying it won't happen because the retirement's coming out, I just think it lessens the chance. Milwaukee, Fotuaika. Wildcard for Titans. Suicide Tucker Howie, parallel for Roosters. Nelson Asafa Solomona, parallel for Storm. Tom Starling, Rising Stars for the Raiders. Cameron Murray, parallel for the Rabbits. Rising Stars, Adam Clune for the Dragons. Nick Meaney, parallel for the Bulldogs. Kalen Ponga, Star Tunes for Knights. Felice Kafusi, parallel for Storm. Season to Remember, Mikhail Ravalawa for Dragons. Tavita Totola, parallel for Rabbits. Season to Remember, Hamaso Fido for the Cowboys. Mitchell Pearce, parallel for the Knights. Yeah, basically if there's a time in the box that lessens the chance of another numbered hit being in there. Rising Stars, Lachlan Lamb for the Roosters. Micah Sivo for the Eels. And our last priority, yep, because I'm pretty sure the Titans coming out of this one. Number 21, team wildcard for the Panthers. Alexander Brimson, parallel for Titans. Jerome Luai, parallel for Panthers. Braden Hemlin Yulee for the Sharks. Fourth last packet, guys. Rising Stars, Stephen Crichton for Panthers. Eliza Katoa, parallel for Warriors. Season to Remember, Sonny Bill Williams with the Roosters. Thomas McHale, parallel with the Tigers. Rising Stars, Tessie New for the Broncos. Jordan Pierre, parallel for the Dragons. And last but not least, drum roll. Wildcard for the Raiders, Chance Nicole Klokstad and Jared Croker, parallel for the Raiders. Alright, so let's get stuck into our Razzers. We'll start at the back. So we have a Group B. Yellow Star Toon, guys. Alright. Group B. Let's see. Alright, so this is for our first Yellow Star Toon, Group B. Let's go, number 1, number 2, and lucky last, number 3. Tigers, Ashley Kenny with the Group B Star Toon, Yellow Group B Star Toon. So next up we have a Group A Blue Star Toon, people. So I'm going to do these the way they come out in the break. The yellow one was first, blue was next. Alright, here we go again. Number 1, number 2, and lucky last number 3. Robert Kelly with Titans for our blue Group A Star Toon. Next up we have our Group A Black Star Toon number 45. Alright, here we go. Number 1, number 2, and lucky last number 3. Bulldogs of Robert Kelly for a Group A Black Star Toon number 45. Next up is Black Group A Star Toon number 29. Alright, here we go. Number 1, number 2, and lucky last number 3. Sharks, Brent Timmins with the Group A Black Star Toon. Alright, so next up we have a blue Group B. Blue Group B. I feel like I'm calling bingo. Alright, good luck. Number 1, number 2, and lucky last number 3. Brendan Martin with the Roosters for blue Group B Star Toon. Alright, next up we have 2 of each normal Star Toons, guys. So it went Group B first. That's nice and easy. Number 1. So this is for the acetate Group B Star Toon. And lucky last, Craig Hyde, Brendan Martin with the Roosters. Alright. So one more time for our Group Bs. Once again for acetate Group B Star Toon. Number 1, number 2, and lucky last number 3. Cowboys, Christopher Barrett. Alright, so now we have our Group A Star Toons, which we have 2 of them as well. Alright, Group A, careful. Number 1, number 2, and lucky last number 3. Brent Timmins with the Sharks. One more time. This is for our group number 1, number 2, and lucky last number 3. Broncos, Robert Kelly for our last Group A acetate Star Toon. Alright, next up we will do all 16 clubs for our $50 voucher, and then all that will be left will be our non-hits. It's a Tigers retirement. Oh, I would actually have to double check now you said that. Yeah, maybe that's why we did. Alright. Number 1, number 2, and number 3 for our $50 voucher. Brent Timmins with the Sharks. Are you checking that? Okay. So just give me a second while I quickly double check who's got the numbered hits. I did mean to write this down. Broncos are out.
Basic card will be randomised between all 16 spots at the end of the trade.
Sweet, no worries.
Because not everything
Yeah,
just set straight across the board.
yeah. Raiders are out. Bulldogs are out. Sharks are out. Titans are out. Manly, no hits. No, I did mean to. Huh? Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Sorry, I'm still here, guys. All out except for Dragons. I got Manly. Manly haven't got a numbered hit. Rodney's saying except for Dragons. A laugh out loud. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realise. Yeah. Close to an only Dragons. It's time. You're right. Alright. So, last but not least, I need to do, second last, West Tigers case card, which is all 16. And then, as long as none of these hit, number 1, number 2, and lucky last, number 3, Bulldogs, Robert Kelly. Alright, so we have Manly, Dragons, Roosters, Warriors, and Tigers. The teams without a numbered hit today. Dragons were one of them. Well, wasn't telling the whole truth either. Manly, Dragons, Roosters, Alright, so once again guys, this is for another $50 voucher. So good luck to everyone. And here we go. Number 1, number 2, and lucky last, number 3. Warriors, Christopher Barrett. Alright, once again I'd like to say thank you to everyone that jumped in at the beginning. Yeah, and we're patient to wait for us to finish out. Everyone that jumped in to help us fill it up. And to those with the vouchers, I'll email them to the emails used in the orders. On that note, keep an eye out for the new breaks. We'll be listing them probably later this evening. And these ones will be due to break next Saturday, guys. So we'll see you all again soon. Plenty to look out for.